Nobody was supposed to hear this. Nobody was supposed to see the clips. And nobody was prepared for the moment NBA Youngboy finally snapped and said out loud what so many artists only whisper behind closed doors. Overnight, Louisiana went from being his home to being the place that shut the door in his face, and the way it happened sent shockwaves through hip-hop like an earthquake nobody could ignore. 1 minute fans were celebrating his return, his birthday, his victory lap after years of pressure. The next minute, the narrative flipped, and suddenly he wasn't an artist anymore. He was a problem. What makes this feel explosive isn't just the ban. It's the speed. The silence. The way the decision seemed to already be made before the dust from his shows even settled. Videos started resurfacing. Messages allegedly leaked. People close to the situation began whispering that this wasn't about safety at all. It was about control. And when Youngboy reacted, raw and visibly furious, saying they were treating him like a threat instead of a human being, the internet caught fire. Fans split instantly. Some said he crossed a line. Others said he finally told the truth nobody wanted to hear. Clips of him pacing, venting, questioning why he was being singled out spread faster than any official statement. And then came the most chilling part. Insiders began claiming this ban wasn't spontaneous. It was planned. Triggered. Waiting for the right excuse. This isn't just a story about one rapper being blocked from a stage. This is about power, fear, and what happens when success doesn't make you safe. And once you hear what really went down behind the scenes, you'll understand why this moment might change everything. The moment the news broke, it didn't feel real. Not to the fans. Not to the promoters. And definitely not to NBA Youngboy himself. 1 second, Louisiana was celebrating the return of one of its biggest stars, a homegrown success story who survived everything thrown at him. The next second, the state he came from was quietly moving to shut him out. And the most disturbing part? According to people inside his camp, Youngboy didn't find out through an official call or a clean announcement. He found out through whispers. Through screenshots. Through messages sent late at night that all said the same thing in different ways: they don't want you here anymore. Sources say the reaction wasn't immediate rage. It was silence. The kind of silence that hits when someone realizes the ground under them was never solid to begin with. Youngboy reportedly sat with the information for hours, pacing, replaying everything that had just happened in his head. The shows. The crowd. The love. The birthday energy. All of it suddenly felt like bait. Like he had been allowed back just long enough to justify pushing him out again. Behind the scenes, alleged internal communications began circulating. Nothing official. Nothing signed. Just quiet pressure. Venue operators allegedly receiving recommendations. Promoters suddenly backing out with vague excuses. Insurance costs mysteriously skyrocketing. According to one insider, the message was clear without ever being written down: booking him would be a problem. And in the music industry, problem is a death word. When Youngboy finally reacted publicly, fans noticed something different. This wasn't defiance for cameras. This wasn't a social media stunt. His voice sounded tired. Angry, yes, but more than that, disappointed. He questioned why the same city that profits off his music, his name, his draw, suddenly paints him as a risk. He asked why other artists with similar or worse histories weren't treated the same. And that question lit a fuse. Because almost immediately, old footage resurfaced. Other major acts performing in Louisiana with no extra restrictions. No headlines. No panic. The internet began doing what it does best, lining up receipts, comparisons, timelines. TikTok creators slowed down clips of Youngboy speaking, analyzing his tone, pointing out moments where his voice cracked when he mentioned Louisiana specifically. This wasn't about touring anymore. This was personal. Then came the alleged leaks. Messages said to be from people close to the situation claiming the decision had less to do with safety and more to do with image. That certain officials didn't like what Youngboy represented. that he was too influential without being controllable. Whether true or not, those claims spread like wildfire because they fit a pattern fans felt they'd seen before. The reaction from other artists didn't help calm things down. Some posted cryptic tweets about being punished for success. Others liked posts calling the situation discriminatory, then quickly unliked them. One well-known rapper commented they do this every time, before deleting the comment minutes later. Screenshots, of course, lived forever. What made everything more explosive was the timing. This wasn't during chaos. There were no major incidents tied directly to his performances. No official emergencies. Which led fans to ask the most dangerous question of all: if nothing went wrong, why the ban now? And once that question took hold, the narrative slipped out of anyone's control. Youngboy's inner circle allegedly warned him not to respond emotionally. To wait. To let lawyers handle it. But according to sources, he felt staying quiet would make it look like acceptance. And that was something he refused to give them. So instead of issuing a polished statement, he spoke the way he always has. Blunt. Unfiltered. And that authenticity only poured gasoline on the fire. Fans began organizing online, calling for boycotts of venues, tagging officials, demanding explanations that never came. The silence from Louisiana officials became louder than any press release. And in that silence, theories grew darker. Some claimed this was retaliation. Others said it was preemptive. A way to avoid dealing with his growing influence altogether. By the end of the first 24 hours, this was no longer just a headline. It was a movement of opinions, anger, and unanswered questions. And as Youngboy's reaction continued to ripple across the internet, one thing became terrifyingly clear: this wasn't over. Whatever forces moved to block him had underestimated one thing. The reaction wouldn't stay contained. And the next development would push this situation into a place nobody was ready for. As the backlash grew louder, the story took a darker turn. What started as frustration quickly transformed into suspicion, and suspicion into outrage. According to multiple alleged insiders, the ban wasn't enforced through one clean decision, but through a quiet chain reaction designed to leave no fingerprints. No single official statement. No paper trail. Just pressure, whispers, and fear doing the work behind the scenes. Promoters reportedly began receiving calls they didn't expect. Not threats, not demands, just concerns. The kind of conversations that start friendly and end expensive. Security requirements allegedly jumped overnight. Insurance premiums doubled, then tripled. Venues that had already shown interest suddenly claimed scheduling conflicts. Others stopped responding entirely. To fans watching from the outside, it looked like coincidence. To people inside the industry, it looked like a coordinated freeze-out. Youngboy, meanwhile, was watching it happen in real time. Sources say he was sent screenshots of conversations he wasn't supposed to see. Messages where his name triggered anxiety instead of excitement. One alleged text that circulated widely read, "We love the money, but we don't want the headache." That line alone sent fans into a frenzy. Because what headache? What actually happened that justified this response? Then came the audio clip that changed everything. A short, grainy recording allegedly captured during a private conversation between local officials and venue representatives. The audio didn't name Youngboy directly, but the implication was unmistakable. Phrases like optics, risk management, and we can't afford another situation were thrown around with alarming vagueness. No one mentioned violence. No one cited a specific incident. Just fear, abstract, undefined, and impossible to disprove. When that clip hit social media, the internet exploded. Twitter Spaces filled up instantly. TikTok lives ran for hours. Fans and commentators dissected every word, every pause, every tone shift. Why talk about optics if nothing happened? Why frame an artist as a liability without evidence? The more people asked, the quieter the officials became. That silence pushed Youngboy closer to the edge. In a now viral moment, he reacted directly, saying he felt like he was being punished for who But the most chilling development came from an alleged insider leak claiming this wasn't the first time this strategy had been used. According to the source, several artists over the years had been quietly discouraged from performing in certain cities using the same playbook: inflate security fears, raise costs, apply pressure until booking becomes impossible. No bans on paper. No lawsuits. Just silence and scarcity. Fans started connecting dots. Old tour cancellations. Sudden venue changes. Artists who never returned to certain cities without explanation. What once felt random now felt patterned. And Louisiana became the center of that conversation, whether officials liked it or not. Youngboy's camp reportedly began preparing for something bigger than a tour adjustment. Lawyers were consulted. Documents were requested. Comparisons were drawn between how different artists were treated under similar circumstances. And the more they looked, the less equal it appeared. According to one source, the evidence wasn't explosive on its own, but together, it told a story that couldn't be ignored. As pressure mounted, a new rumor surfaced that sent shockwaves through the fandom. Allegedly, someone close to the decision-making process admitted off-record that the ban wasn't about safety at all. It was about preventing unpredictability. That word alone ignited a storm. Unpredictable how? Musically? Personally? Politically? No one clarified. And that lack of clarity made it worse. Youngboy responded again, this time more controlled, more focused. He said he wasn't asking for special treatment. He was asking for fairness. To be judged by actions, not assumptions. And that line, assumptions, stuck. Because it forces everyone watching to confront an uncomfortable truth about how quickly narratives are assigned, especially to artists who don't fit neatly into boxes. By this point, the story had outgrown the ban itself. It wasn't about whether he'd perform in Louisiana again. It was about what this moment represented. About who gets to decide what's acceptable. About how power moves quietly while outrage burns loudly. And just when it seemed like the situation couldn't escalate any further, a new development surfaced that shifted the entire balance. A major figure, someone with direct influence over future bookings, allegedly broke ranks and spoke out privately, hinting that this decision might not hold forever. That cracks were forming. That pressure was being felt on both sides. But before anyone could celebrate, one final detail emerged, a warning that suggested the next move wouldn't come from officials or venues, but from Youngboy himself. And whatever he was planning, insiders say it wasn't just a response. It was a statement that could change the game entirely. By the time dawn broke, it was clear the situation had crossed a line that couldn't be walked back. This wasn't just about cancelled shows or quiet pressure anymore. This was about power being challenged in public, and according to multiple alleged insiders, the people who thought they could quietly erase Youngboy from Louisiana were now scrambling to contain something much bigger than they ever anticipated. Because while officials stayed silent and venues kept dodging questions, Youngboy did something no one expected. He stopped reacting, and started moving. Sources close to his camp claim he made a deliberate decision to say less publicly and do more privately. No emotional rants. No late-night Instagram lives. No subtweets. Just meetings. Phone calls. Documentation. And a strategy that caught everyone off guard. Behind the scenes, his legal team allegedly began assembling a timeline. Not just of the ban itself, but of everything that led up to it. Emails. Security invoices. Sudden policy changes. Promoters who went from enthusiastic to unreachable overnight. What looked like chaos from the outside started to form a pattern when laid out on paper. And that pattern, according to insiders, was deeply uncomfortable for the people who thought this would blow over quietly. One alleged document that circulated in private group chats sent shockwaves through the industry. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't accusatory. It was clinical. A side-by-side comparison showing how different artists were treated under similar circumstances. Same venues. Same crowd sizes. Same cities. Radically different security demands. radically different costs. And one name stood out as an outlier every single time. When whispers of that document leaked, the tone online shifted instantly. Fans weren't just angry anymore, they were focused. Hashtags stopped being emotional and started sounding legal. Receipts. Paper trail. Explain this. Commentators who had stayed neutral suddenly admitted something didn't add up. Even people who weren't fans of Youngboy said the numbers looked off. Then came the moment that turned the pressure into panic. According to multiple sources, a closed-door meeting allegedly took place between city officials, venue operators, and legal advisors. The purpose wasn't to double down on the ban. It was to assess exposure. Because the concern was no longer public backlash. It was litigation. Civil rights. Discrimination claims. And once those words entered the conversation, everything changed. Youngboy's camp, meanwhile, allegedly sent a clear message without ever issuing a statement. He didn't threaten. He didn't posture. He simply let it be known that he was willing to fight this all the way through, not just for himself, but for every artist who had been quietly pushed out the same way. That alone rattled people who were used to artists backing down when the pressure got heavy. And then the most unexpected twist of all dropped. A respected industry figure, someone with no public ties to Youngboy, reportedly spoke up in a private forum and confirmed what many suspected but few could prove. That the ban wasn't a ban at all. It was a strategy. A way to avoid accountability while still achieving the same result. According to that source, if it was really about safety, there would be rules. This is about control. That quote leaked. Screenshot. Shared. And once it did, there was no putting the genie back in the bottle. Suddenly, officials who had been comfortable letting the story die were being forced to answer questions they didn't want to touch. Why were there no written bans? Why were requirements changing case by case? Why did concerns only seem to apply to certain artists? The lack of clear answers made everything feel worse. Youngboy broke his silence one last time, not with anger, but with clarity. In a short statement that went viral instantly, he said he wasn't asking to be treated like a hero or a villain. Just like everyone else. The simplicity of it hit harder than any rant ever could. Because it stripped away every excuse and left only one question standing. Why not? Fans rallied behind that question. Other artists echoed it. Even people outside hip-hop began paying attention. Because the issue had become bigger than music. It was about who gets to exist in public spaces without being labeled a threat. Who gets to come home without being treated like a problem. As of now, nothing has been officially reversed. No apology has been issued. No policy clarified. But insiders say the ground has shifted. Venues are watching closely. Officials are being careful. And Youngboy, according to those closest to him, isn't done. In fact, the final word from his camp is that this chapter was never meant to end with a ban. It was meant to expose how easily one could happen. And if that exposure forces change, even quietly, then the statement has already been made. Because sometimes the loudest response isn't a protest or a threat. It's refusing to disappear when the system expects you to. Before you click away, stop for a second, because this isn't just another headline you scroll past and forget. What's happening here is bigger than one artist, bigger than one state, and bigger than one moment in hip-hop history. This is about power, silence, and what happens when someone refuses to shrink when they're told to step back. If this story made you uncomfortable, good. That means you're paying attention. If it made you angry, confused, or fired up, that's exactly why your voice matters right now. The only reason stories like this survive, the only reason pressure turns into change, is because people refuse to let them die quietly. So here's what you need to do. Hit that like button, not just for support, but to force this conversation into more feeds, more timelines, more eyes that weren't meant to see it. Drop a comment and say exactly how you feel. Do you think this ban was really about safety, or about control? Do you believe Youngboy is being singled out, or is this just the beginning of something wider? Your comments don't just add noise, they shape what gets talked about next. And most importantly, subscribe. Because this story is not finished. Insiders are still talking. Documents are still being shared. Moves are still being made behind closed doors. The next update won't come with a warning, and when it drops, you'll want to be here when it does, not hearing about it secondhand. Turn on notifications. Stay locked in. Stay questioning. Because the moment everyone stops paying attention is the moment the truth gets buried. And trust me, whatever comes next is going to shake things even harder.